What is up, guys? Lord Nick here, bringing you another One Piece related video. This video, guys, is going to be another Rebecca Deck tech. And for those who might be wondering, man, you are cranking out Rebecca Deck techs. Are you actually like playing these Rebecca decks? It's like, yes, I am. Every list I have posted so far, I've played at least 20 games on before I make the list. And generally, I've been just playing a ton of Rebecca. This last week, I recounted just after I've tried to make this video like 4 times just to make sure. I went back and recounted how many games I played. On Sim, for Rank Sim, I played close to 25 Rebecca games. Off of Rank Sim, I probably played another 10 to 15 Rebecca games. I am grinding Rebecca like crazy, and that's not even including my locals. I played Rebecca locals on Wednesday. I played her for fun with some friends around our locals on Friday. I didn't actually play her in the locals that day. I let a different friend pick my deck, and he chose for me to play Blurple Croc, and that list was not fully tuned to what I wanted it to be, so that was not a very fun experience for me. But it was, I would have been testing this particular Rebecca list, and after testing this on the side for fun, using some proxies, this list has been superb in terms of just fun and efficiency. And what do I mean by, using those words like that? Let's get into it. The only thing that I would tweak about this list, the only thing I might tweak, is to limit my win condition a few cards. So our big win condition is Elizabello and Con Gun. So Elizabello is a Kong gun. He is a character with a Kong gun built into him. You get the King Punch out of this guy. This guy is phenomenally fun to use. It catches people off guard, and I think I like it better than Luffy. And my biggest reasons, if you cannot tell, there are no Luffys here. And Elizabello is our cards from yard to, or from trash back to deck kind of card. And the reason, the reason I like Elizabello better is he doesn't require you to have a Kong gun. He just requires you to have 5 more cards in trash than Kong gun. And he gets a bigger buff. He goes from 5 to 10. And if you just use a Kong gun on him, he goes to 11. So the dude is literally, or 5 to 15. So like the dude is straight up just better than Kong gun because he's a 1 card that requires it. And it just requires you 5 more cards in trash, which this list gets done really easily. All right. Like, there might be some tweaks we can make. Maybe we could drop like out the Borsalinos, though I like them for the matchup into Sakazuchi. It's actually kind of a pretty useful card in that regard. The only thing I would think of is maybe if I drop this to 1 and Kongun to 1, just to have it as because it is a win condition that we don't need to bank on when we're running 10-drop Kuzan, and we could add in 2 7-drop Borsalinos. I will test both lists and kind of get back to you, but I've tested this list. This list is a ton of fun to play. And it actually has just an easy win condition. So Elizabello is better than Luffy, and I started that statement. Let me end it. The reason for this is, 1, the turn that you get him back with a Rebecca, like a Luffy, you could get him back with Rebecca, but you can play Elizabello that turn. Automatically is better than Luffy, because now you're setting up to kill them next turn potentially, or to swing in big next turn, and that scares people. The other thing is he gets back with Moncherie. All right, so that's 2 reasons he's slightly better than Luffy, arguably. On top of that, Luffy requires another card to get the buff and to get to where Elizabello power is, right? Luffy is 13, Elizabello is 15. To get to Elizabello, you need to invest 2 extra Dawn outside of the Kong gun. So you need another card than Luffy, plus an additional 2 Dawn. So you're looking at 5 Dawn investment to get Luffy to Elizabello's power. Not exactly efficiency, I would say. Yes, it does take a little bit more time to usually get Elizabello to his curve power, but that means we're usually on 10 Dawn by that point. And if I have Elizabello in hand, I play Elizabello, and then I play Sabo. And now my Elizabello cannot be KO'd, whereas Luffy can be KO'd or swung into. Luffy effectively becomes a blocker after the turn I play him. Meanwhile, Elizabello is just online and ready to go. And I am now telling my opponent, hey, if I have 3 or 4 life, you have to figure out how to get rid of all of that and kill me this turn, or I'm going to win. Because most people do not, outside of blue, there is not an efficient way to deal with this. I mean, maybe green can tap him, and then they swing into the motherfucker and try to kill him that way. But if I have a Sabo, you need to tap the Sabo as well. And if you're swinging into him, you're probably using a decent amount of Dawn to do that. So the green has some ways of doing that, right? Like you put down 8-drop kid. That is a problem for me. 8-drop kid in a blocker is very effective way of dealing with this. But like outside of that scenario, dealing with the win con is very difficult for a lot of decks. They just throw blockers in front of me. And my deck, guess what the rest of my deck does? It removes blockers. So we actually just are threatening, hey, you're going to die. If all I have for attackers the next turn is Elizabello and Sabo, that's fine if I have the Kong gun. So for that same investment that we'd put into a Luffy, right? Let's say we do it 6. So we now move our Sabo from 12 and then another 3. So now he's a 15. So we have 2 15 attacks coming at you. I have 4 Dawn remaining. Let's say they've effectively put down 1 blocker. Guess what? One-legged soldier, Houndblaze gets rid of that. Or for 4 Dawn. Hey, guess what? We have 4 Dawn that gets rid of it. Or a Truno gets rid of it. If it's not a Borsellino. Or guess what? That's about it. Those are the removal options there. If we're investing that much Dawn on the Sabo, and we're only investing that much Dawn on the Sabo if our opponent is showing that there is something like they have enough cards in their hand that we really want our Sabo at 15 because 15 is a hard number to break. If we don't, if our opponent only has like 2 cards in hand, then yeah, just Konga the Sabo and then use the remaining 7 Dawn to remove whatever blockers are in the way. And then on top of that, once the Sabo swing's done, they'll be at 0 life. We'll make Elizabello 15 and say, hey, you might have 4 cards in hand now. Deal with 15. And most decks cannot do that. I'll just let you know, most decks do not have a way of dealing with 15 if that is the case. And if you're saying, well, what if they're yellow and they get a blocker out of life, or they get a Beige out of life? If they get a BG out of life, then our plan shifts. We have 7 Dawn remaining. Our plan can shift pretty easily with 7 Dawn, right? We could drop a Rebecca. We can use some removal out of hand just to remove their stuff and pass turn. And then our Elizabello is threatening the next turn. And we don't need the Kong gun to threaten the next turn. We have you at no life. So even if they hit a Beige, as long as we have life, or as long as we have other blockers we could play, we're okay. This deck does fine. You could drop a second Sabo if you need to. And then guess what? He's protected another turn, and we just effectively gave ourselves a blocker Sabo. And if they start swinging into our tapped guys, we're fine. We still have Elizabello to crack back again. So, like, there's a lot of ways that this deck works better with Elizabello opposed to Luffy. I think 2 of is fine. I think the 2 10-drop Kuzans is great, just in case we some reason can't get to that Elizabello combo, or if we've taken too much damage. This just kind of gets us back into the game. There's a lot of ways this gets us back into the game. Like, maybe we've cleared a lot of their board, and we have 1 or 2 life left. They have 1 10-drop Mom. If we have our Lumbus that's sticking around, because usually we will have at least 1 that is stuck around a little bit, we can Lumbus -4 Mom, and then, like, there's probably not too many ways we could actually get rid of a 10-drop Mom. 10-drop Mom's a bad example. If they have a Katakuri, that's Katakuri or Yamato. We can deal with those, right? Like, 10-drop Mom was a bad choice by me. But Lumbus will help us clear one of those big sticky monsters by using that into a Kuzan. And they don't really have a way of dealing with Kuzan. Like, 10-drop Kuzan is very difficult for a lot of decks to deal with. And then when it comes back to my turn, guess what? They're all -5. That means they're in range of basically any part of my combo will kill everything, right? Like, all of their 8s become 3s. All of their 9s become 4s. One-legged soldiers will put them in range to be Luchi'd. Like, just one of our patchworks will put something in range to be Luchi'd. Like, we become so much more efficient at clearing things. It becomes very difficult for them to deal with anything. And if they're swinging out, I then have a Kuzan who's bigger than most of their board that can swing back and clear it. So, yeah, I mean, the deck has much more legs this way. It has a top-end monster, and then it also just has an OTK combo, which I said we could potentially drop each of these to 1 and add in 2 7-drop Borsos if we really need some more non-KO based removal. It really depends. So far, this list, as is, has done pretty well into Sokka, but I've only tested against 1 Sokka list. It's done much better into a Nell because of the Kuzans and having this type of swing. So yeah, let me know what you think, guys. Maybe you guys have some tips of your own. Maybe you guys have some tricks that you figured out for the difficult matchups of yellow. And until the next video, guys, I hope you have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye, guys.